Whoa, welcome into the Questionable Podcast with an immediate raid, it looks like, right off the bat. Welcome
Already?
in. Yeah, it just said they're raiding with a party of 80. So welcome in, crew. Thanks, POD, for the early raid.
Oh, that means we have great. You guys get to hear every great thing that we have to say, or questionable thing we have to say. I guess we'll see how it kind of unfolds.
Right. So welcome in. Welcome to the Questionable Podcast. You got Scotty Questions here with Miko. What's good, man?
What's going on, everybody? What's going on, Scotty?
What's up? And we got Gian in the house tonight. Rare occasion. Video.
Yeah, rare. Yes.
Rare the prodigal son has returned.
Yes, indeed.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing. Well, welcome in everybody from Pride of Detroit. We're going to try and pick up where they've left off. I don't know where they left off, but we're going to start where we're going to start. But reminder, head over to questionabletees.com and check out the new merch. We got more stuff coming, so we will let you know when that all gets released. So today we're obviously going to talk about the NFL draft recap, and we have tons to get into. Lots of people have covered a lot of angles. I have a couple interesting thoughts, but yeah, John, it's great to have you here. Thank you for being here today.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
For those that didn't know, but in the green room, John had his daughter Karina up with one hand on the couch by herself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty
Were
great.
you like trying to teach her to stand, or was it like a?
No, I was trying to hold her out like Rachel was running around looking for her phone because she wanted a photo because she looked so cute. And so she's like, will you just like hold her up right there, right? Because that's exactly where I want to take the photo. So just hold her there while I go run around and find my phone. And then she couldn't find her phone, and it was lodged underneath the couch, and it was a whole thing, and we never got the photo. So yeah,
The things moms will do to get a photo op of their children.
Right, but the crazy
Yeah.
part is that's when John popped live on the call, and all we see is his one hand holding up his daughter. We're like, what's
With no
happening?
context, yeah, like
no context. So, anyways, yeah, so that's what's happening here today as we start in. But yes, the draft. Wow. Wow. Interesting. I think a lot of people's emotions have changed. Mine has a little bit different take on it, but
oh really?
a little bit.
You
But
were-
Miko, let's have you start us off here.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna just obviously take this pick by pick. Obviously, we're not gonna spend too much time on each pick, or hopefully not spend too much time on each pick. But we got to start it off with the. I don't know if it was the biggest surprise, but it was the first surprise. It was definitely the first surprise with the Lions taking running back Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama at 12 after trading back from 6, which, I mean, for those of you who didn't get to catch our live stream, we were very much in support of like, oh, this is awesome. It kind of told us what we wanted to know as far as like Jalen Carter was concerned. Trading back to 6 was, trading back from 6 to 12 basically let us know like, okay, they're not in the market for, that type of defensive player. But Jahmyr Gibbs was something that like I just didn't see coming. But at the same time, and I said this all, during both days of the draft on our stream, as well as went over to Luke's stream and talked to him a bit, I don't hate the player. I actually love the player a lot. Jahmyr Gibbs was a guy where if we were talking running backs that you could get for the Lions, if we were talking about somebody to either replace DeAndre Swift, which they eventually, did after trading him, or just getting somebody to add to that committee, Jahmyr Gibbs was like top of the list. And it was like, but it felt like a pipe dream, right? It felt like if you were going to try to get Jahmyr Gibbs, specifically in the second round, which is where a lot of people thought he was going to go, you were going to be taking Jahmyr Gibbs and foregoing another position, potentially another position of need. And I just wasn't sure if the Lions would do that. Instead, they completely, flip the script on us and they take him at 12. And after the initial shock of it, after taking a couple days to process it, I love this pick. And it really comes down to the fact that I love the player. If I love the player, I can't sit here and knock the pick. And it's really because, like, at the end of the day, I had to self-analyze, and it came down to this simple question. And I hope you guys did the same thing and to our audience, I hope you guys did the same thing.
I went into the darkness. I went into the darkness to self-analyze. Anyway, go ahead, Miko.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I mean, trust me, the night of, like, I was like in a weird spot, and it was just like, But again, over the weekend, it just became a question of like, does positional value really matter to me? Or does it matter because I allowed other people to say it mattered? In the same way that I assumed that the Lions would take certain players because other people told me they would or they should. And when I really kind of self-analyzed, I was like, I genuinely don't really care about positional value. Honestly, I want this team to get great football players. I want them to get guys that are going to make an impact. And when I look at Jahmyr Gibbs, that's what I see. I see a running back that, again, in replacing DeAndre Swift, that is going to make plays, who is going to be dynamic for you in the run game and in the pass game, and potentially even on special teams if you really want to. If you want to get sneaky with it, you can throw him out probably out there on punt return or kick return, and you know you have a guy that can take it to the house. He's instant offense. He's instant, 6 points. If he can hit a hole, he's the type of guy that, again, does what DeAndre Swift could do at times, which is make these big plays, but he's going to make them and then not get caught. He's not just going to take it 50 yards and then get probably tackled by a safety or a corner that catches up to him. He's going to basically be doing Tyreek Hill type of stuff where it's on the way to the end zone and he's throwing up the deuces. Like it's,
I mean, I hope so. Yeah. I mean,
so yeah, that's where I stand on it. I love the player, and since I love the player, I love the pick. It's not what I thought they would do, but it's what ultimately I love that they did, considering what they are getting.
John, I'm going to let you dive right in.
Okay, well, I want to pick up on that positional value, and I think it really, everyone got so caught up because like we love armchair GM, and we love over analyzing, and like it's one of those things that that you can, it's like abstract enough, it's concrete enough that points can be made 2 and 4, and it's abstract enough that you can kind of have, there's wiggle room for everyone's opinion. And so I feel like that's what kind of makes it a perfect storm for debates and internet debates and discussions and talking heads, such as ourselves. But and so but in the end, like positional value, I think really matters for the first 2 drafts that Brad Holmes went when he had to completely rebuild. And now that we've gone from this unknown entity to having a team identity and finishing out the season 8-10, and the coaches and Brad Holmes, it certainly seems like the window is the next 1 to 3 years to make a deep playoff run, if not a Super Bowl run. And so positional value, I think, goes out the window under that circumstance. And then it's just either best player available, or this is the guy that I want on our team. And I think that's what we kind of overlooked is that the strategy that Brad had employed the last 2 drafts was going to be the same strategy. And I think all of us kind of,
that's interesting,
professional analysts and shade tree analysts all kind of ignored the fact that circumstances change the calculus. And I think that's what we saw. And then to the fact of Jahmyr Gibbs, in terms of, there was a great point. Last thing on positional value. The only thing of that positional value, Dan Orlovsky made a good point today or yesterday, is that the only part of positional value that he kind of still believes in is the salary and how it affects the cap. He's like, that's really the only, that's like the only remaining argument for like positional value is like value in the financial sense. Is like position, like taking a like a running back in the top 10, paying that person versus paying, because he had a great breakdown of the average salary of quarterback, wide receiver, down all in all the position. Linebacker was way at the bottom. First round, you have to pay him more. So anyway, I thought that was a good point. So not to think that I'm totally positional values out the window, but one thing that the guy who went after him said that I didn't look at it was he said all the last 2 years, the Lions and the GM and Dan Campbell have fought and tried to give this team an identity. And I think last season we saw it emerge, and what it means to be a Lion is now a real thing. They have an identity. It is grit. It is all the things we know it to be. I don't have to rehash what it is.
Well, it's all football all the time too.
Well, yes,
like these guys that are like
absolutely live and breathe. Yes.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say it's not even just grit anymore, though. When you look at, I mean, again, specifically looking at the pick of Jahmyr Gibbs and even looking last year at Jamison Williams, it's not just grit. It's not just beat it up, dirty football. It's also explosiveness. It's also like we are going to take our shots and we are going to like hit them with these home run hitters.
Yes. And so that identity has been established. And now, and the guy made a good point. He's like, and now year 3, when Holmes goes and he drafts Lions in the first, with the first 2 picks, everyone's like, oh, what are they doing? We're all scratching our heads. It's like, no, they've established an identity and what it means to be a Lion. And he just went and drafted the 2 like bona fide Lions in the first round in Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell. Is kind of bleeding into my Jack Campbell spiel. But yeah. And so I think from that perspective, it makes a lot more sense. But it definitely took us all by surprise draft night.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a good take on that. I think, yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. I think context is key here too, right? When we hear it at the draft, we don't have what Holmes is telling us, right? We don't know everything. Obviously, we keep saying that, but then we think we do, or I do at least, and I know nothing, clearly. So, yeah, to me that was interesting, right? To go back, I really thought they'd be aggressive. That they did not. They went back and they got a running back. I thought they'd move up for Anderson. They did not, and then they didn't really address that till later, right? And if at all. So I'm just curious. Yeah, like, I mean, the Swift thing, do we know, here's my question. Do we know if Swift was already like wanted out, or at the pick, he's like, I'm gone?
That was I kind of posed that question to you guys. Like, do you think, and like to phrase it another way, do you think Brad Holmes went into this draft thinking like, we are going to replace DeAndre Swift?
I mean, the report that came out, I believe it was on Saturday, was that DeAndre asked for the trade after the Jahmyr Gibbs pick. And this is why I like the Jahmyr pick, the Gibbs pick even more, because I don't think Brad necessarily went in as like hey, this is an absolute replacement for DeAndre.
Right.
I do think he went in with like, this is a compliment to DeAndre. And
potential future after DeAndre.
Yeah, potential future afterwards, in the sense of like, he kind of said this during his press conference when talking about how negotiations fell through with Jamal, where they went in and they thought like, hey,
everything
Jamal
was good.
Loves it here.
Yeah,
we thought, we've had positive conversations, so like re-signing him shouldn't be a problem. I think they felt the same way probably about DeAndre. DeAndre probably never gave any type of hint that he wasn't unhappy in Detroit, but Brad probably felt like, this is insurance just in case, we got the wrong read on this. But B, it also, I think, was going to be part of their plan, because Dan talked about this at the end of the season, was like, I think Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be part of the plan to help them keep Swift fresh. And that was always the thing when they were talking about Swift, was that like, hey, Brad, I mean, Dan said it like, hey, we thought we had a plan. That plan kind of fell through. But we're going back to the drawing board, because when you have a player of this talent, you have to figure that out. And so I don't think it was ever a plan necessarily to just like flat out get rid of Swift, because I think if that was the case, I think they would have moved him earlier. They would have moved him much earlier, and they would have taken whatever. But Brad again kind of expressed that like, when they did this trade with Philly, like that 4th round pick isn't insignificant. Like getting a 4th round pick, even though it's 2 years away, Brad said so himself. Hey, when you're dealing a player of DeAndre Swift's caliber, you have to make sure you're properly compensated. So I get it. And it's been a hot button for me of like, I get it. DeAndre wasn't healthy. He probably didn't live up to what we thought he would be, being a 2nd round pick. But if you sit here and think that he wasn't explosive as if he didn't have impact when he was healthy, you are lying to yourself.
Right.
Yeah. You are absolutely having selective memory when you look at his actual impact on the game. Look at how the rushing attack looked when he was healthy versus when he wasn't healthy and they only had Jamal Williams. It was drastically different.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at too, is like, I was excited for Swift this season with Monty, and then even with Gibbs. I was like, okay, like when I thought about it, but that immediately was taken away, right? Of like, he gone, So that's a bummer, and I think that's why they took the the undrafted free agent, I believe, right? That running back late.
Oh yeah, Muhammad Ibrahim out of Minnesota. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why they did that then afterwards. So yeah, tough one to swallow. I think Mina Kimes said it best: when you drink some kombucha for the first time and you have this face of like, what? Why? Why am I doing this?
But then you're like,
maybe okay.
Yeah.
Like, so, but yeah, like shout out to Jeremy too, Proud Detroit. He said this could very much be a win-win for the Lions and the Eagles.
I think it absolutely is.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we have to wait and see how Jahmyr Gibbs plays out, but I do think it's a win-win. I think
it's another example of Holmes taking care of the guys on their way out.
I was just about to say that. I'm glad you said it, because that's exactly where I was going. Yeah, it's an unspoken or like unsung trait of Brad Holmes, is that like in the trades that he's made for the Lions, he's taking care of his guys on the way out. He sent TJ Hawkinson to a Minnesota team that was 6-1 and was looking like a playoff team. He sent Jeff Okudah to the Atlanta Falcons, a team that he actually wanted to go to coming out of the draft. And now he sent DeAndre Swift back home to a contender. Like, he didn't ship him off to where his career could have died.
Now,
like he put him in a really prime position to where he can make an impact. And again, if DeAndre plays well, DeAndre's going to get paid. So like it all kind of works out.
Yeah, unless the Lions beat the Eagles. What?
It's too early.
I know, but
that's a glass of Kool-Aid.
Hey.
To that. So I completely agree. But one thing. So I said this on the draft night show that there's too much going on in my life right now, and there's too much content out there for me to go through like draft picks, and I kind of wait until after I see who we got, and then I watch what I can. And one thing that really has me excited, without kind of taking anything away from what DeAndre brought to the team when he was healthy, because I think everything Miko said was correct. This is just, every player has their limitations. No one is perfect. One of his Swift's limitations, I think, was, and you saw it on Hard Knocks, when Deuce, it was famous when Deuce kept yelling inside. And I think Swift internalized inside, when I think Deuce's point was that's where your blockers are. So you should always run behind your blocker. And someone posted this clip of it's just perfectly encapsulated Swift's limitations, where it was in the Jets game, fourth quarter. It was 17-16. I think we had the ball, and we could we were kind of in a must score situation, and it was 3rd and 9. And they handed off, or no, there was a little sweep. Swift dinks it. He goes. Sewell is downfield, perfectly positioned blocking. If Swift goes to the outside, to the sideline, he picks up maybe 7 or 8 more yards, but he cuts it inside, doesn't follow Sewell, doesn't follow his blocker, and immediately runs into a wall defender short of the first down. It's 4th and 1. And that kind of stuff, I think, is hopefully what we can Gibbs is going to get behind Sewell, or Gibbs has that extra gear or that burst to go around Sewell. And then it's like we keep saying, he's lightning in a bottle, and it's a touchdown.
Right. And Gibbs or Monty, right. Even though, Ben said that they're going to use him in a lot of different unique positions. So it'll be interesting to see, right? We have to me, it's what's interesting is this is an Amon-Ra for the running backs in a weird way, right?
Yeah.
You have this player that can line up in the slot on the outside, and then goodness knows where he's going to go, right? With Amon-Ra lining up on the other side, with when J-Mo comes back. I mean, you remember the running, all the stuff that Ben can do with these tools, it's going to be interesting and fun to watch. I wish J-Mo wasn't suspended for 6 games. But
yeah, no, absolutely. And we can move on to Jack Campbell.
Yes.
But I did want to just kind of say this to John's point. In regards to DeAndre not always hitting the hole, I think that's a legitimate I always thought that was like a legitimate like gripe about his game because, you know, he's home run hitting, like he's looking for their home run hit on every run. And I think Deuce's point was like, hey, take what the offensive line gives you, because you never know what could be a home run if you just follow your blockers. My only concern, I guess, if I had a concern about Gibbs, is that if you watch his tape, there's a little bit of that too. Like you're not getting that with Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is used to hitting home runs, and he's not this hard-nosed runner where he's going to just settle for, 3, 4, 5 yards. He does tend to bounce stuff outside at times, and like you can question whether or not he should or shouldn't. But at the same time, I don't think Alabama's line was like as great as it normally is. So it will be really interesting to see how he performs behind a much better, again, probably top 5, top 3 offensive line in the NFL.
It's going to be fun.
Speaking of, sorry, right before we get into Jack
Campbell, oh my
gosh. There's a photo Detroit Lions put out, Big V.
Haven't been able to play that in forever. Hold on. Yeah, sorry, you were saying something?
Big V back in the facility, doing deadlifts, doing weights, working that back.
I was gonna say deadlifts is important because that'll put a hurt on your back if you do it wrong.
Yeah, so that was very encouraging.
Do it
to
right,
see. And
Big V.
I'm very curious if that played it, because we all thought, we're gonna get into them, and I actually do for like positional value. I do like the pick of Colby Sorsdal. But I wonder if that was why they didn't address it earlier. But anyway, Big V back in the facility, looking good. I'm happy for him and happy for the team.
Also, before we go into the next one, can we talk about Alabama, Iowa, Alabama? Make that a song.
I mean, I was gonna say we can kind of talk about that on the way, because
Alabama, Iowa, Alabama, Alabama, Iowa, Alabama. What?
I feel like G might.
What?
That could be. That could be a new like theme song for the Lions. But
I mean, like that's what it is.
But no, you look at what they did with the next pick in Jack Campbell out of Iowa.
Iowa sandwich.
It's another pick that I love. Like, again, I love the player. Jack Campbell was another guy that I was like, oh, if they could get this guy in the second round, if they prioritize linebacker, Jack Campbell would be a great linebacker. He's a Dan Campbell guy. And all of these things. And then again, it just is a surprise that they take him at 18. And again, I have to self-analyze, and it's like, do I really care about positional value? And it's like, no, not if he's going to be a great linebacker, not if he's going to be the linebacker that you're going to be able to plug in the middle for the next 5 to 10 years or 10 to 15 years. Because I do think that's what they're looking at when they're looking at Jack Campbell, is that like, hey, he's our long-term answer in the middle for years to come.
He reminds me of like an Aiden Hutchinson linebacker. He's like Hutch as a linebacker. Like, it's kind of what it feels like.
He definitely fits the mold. He definitely fits the culture or the identity that this team is trying to build. And it just so happens that he's also a good linebacker. Like, it's not just a culture fit. He is a good linebacker. My only gripe about Jack Campbell, he needs to be a little quicker on the trigger, right? There's some plays where he just like, you can see the play unfolding and you're just like, okay, fire off. Okay, seriously, like, you got to fire off. And like, he's a little slow on some of those plays, but when he does fire off and when he is on time and he's on cue and he's understanding and he's diagnosed the play quickly, he's explosive. He's explosive in the run game. He's explosive in the pass game. He's the type of linebacker that I think Lions fans have been asking for the last few years, and you finally got him. It just so happens, sorry, it's tough cookies. They took him in the first round.
Sorry, it's at 18.
Yeah, like, sorry. But, like,
I mean, to that point.
At the same time, you can't.
Sorry, no, go ahead, Miko.
Well, no, I was just going to say, like, you can't have it both ways. You can't complain that they don't address the linebacker position and then get mad when they address the linebacker position. I think the linebacker position was in a worse situation than your defensive tackle situation.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, if there was a quote unquote glaring hole or an all capital need on the team still remaining going into the draft, it was linebacker. And then we get the best one, arguably. Will Anderson, he's sort of a hybrid position.
Yeah, he's an outside linebacker. He's not your off-ball middle linebacker. Jack Campbell. Sorry, I don't know how many times I'm gonna do that throughout the season.
What?
Jack Campbell was probably the most pure middle linebacker. Every other linebacker, you were kind of like trying to convince yourself that you could play them in the middle. Drew Sanders, in all honesty, Drew Sanders is going to probably play the edge. He's like, some team is going to draft him and try to play him in the middle. And then like 2 or 3 years into his contract, they're going to be like, hey, let's just try you outside. Let's just have you rush the passer. Trenton Simpson was the linebacker that I love the most, but in all honesty, he's not a traditional middle linebacker. Him going to Baltimore is going to be a great fit for him because he's going to get to play next to Patrick Queen. He's going to get to play next to Roquan Smith, and he's probably going to be able to be that hybrid linebacker that they can throw out in coverage situations. And then you just kind of go down the line, like, but Jack is probably like, again, your most secure, just well-defined middle linebacker. And it's kind of telling in what this means when they looked at how they evaluated Malcolm Rodriguez, in all honesty to me. As much as we love Rodrigo and as well as he played, as I mean, again, earning that job as a 6th round draft pick, we also have to acknowledge it was a weak linebacker room. Mm-hmm. And Alex was the only one that Kelvin Shepard was saying from day one was the only person who had a spot locked down. Mm-hmm. And so you brought in somebody who is a higher caliber, and yeah, he probably pushes Malcolm out of the way for that starting spot, but it's not the end of the world because you're getting an upgrade. You're probably sliding Alex over to the will spot, Jack's your middle, and you have 2 linebackers that are not just, again, like sound technically, they're smart. One thing that they've been one thing that they always used to justify bringing back Alex Anzalone is that he's smart, that he's the quarterback of that defense. Well, now you just brought in another smart guy to learn from a smart guy, and that is going to keep your defense like locked in and understanding what they're supposed to do and making sure that people are executing their responsibilities.
Yeah, I was excited about that. Getting to learn from Anzalone for his 3 years that he's got left. That's very exciting. I wonder if that did play into why we signed him for another 3 years. I mean, I think that was.
That's so like tricky though.
Like,
yeah,
he's very smart. He's your green dot, like you say. He's the captain of the defense, and then you go get Jack Campbell to learn under him. And I can't help but think like you're just like it's kind of like leapfrogging a bit, And like I feel like it was a very win now pick because as much as we all love Rodrigo and as much as he outplayed his draft position. Again, we talked about limitations with Swift. Rodrigo had limitations, and they got exposed as the later the season went on, especially in coverage. He's a fantastic blocker. He does well in the run game, but in coverage he struggled, and that seems to be more of Campbell's specialty. And so on obvious run plays, my God, throw in Rodrigo, get Brian Branch up in there and have and even Tracy Walker. I feel like we're really forgetting that he's coming back. Another very smart guy. So yeah, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm done with Jack Campbell.
You're just getting started with Captain Jack.
Yeah.
Campbell
I think
Jr.
it's going to be the nickname that sticks too. Like,
Captain Jack. Yeah, that's already
Captain Jack.
Yeah,
is like,
there. Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's going to have to earn that captain status, but like it kind of just like rolls off the tongue, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Also, I love that. Like, what do you do for fun? He's like, I go to church,
bro. Like as a church
Nico,
myself,
yeah,
I resonated. I was like, I feel you, man. Like when that's your life, you're just like, yeah, church. It's the first thing I do, and then it's like, oh, and then I like to go shoot stuff, and it's like, okay, I can see the Midwestern connection there.
Yeah, that was funny. Like there's a couple guys where I feel like, I wonder how Ragnow, like I want to be there to see like how I would love to be like a fly on the wall in some of these interactions, like with Frank Ragnow and Jack Campbell when they meet each other. Like what do they bond over? Because like
hunting,
like it's there, hunting, fishing, like outdoorsman stuff. It's kind of right there, but you never know. It might be something completely different. And
no, it's hunting and fishing.
Yeah, it'll be hunting.
They'll be boys. They're going to be hunting and fishing.
They'll be on Grizzly Man Outdoors for sure.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, yes, absolutely.
Totally. Yeah.
Scotty, any thoughts on Jack Campbell?
No, I thought it was interesting again. 18, I guess, right when we when we talk about it, and to John's point about signing Anzalone to 3, I don't think that this was the plan, right? If we have to look back at the draft, I mean, this draft unfolded interestingly. I think that everyone in the world had different grades on everyone in the draft than all the GMs did. I felt like the GMs had a GM text chain, and they were just texting about it, laughing at everything that everyone else was saying. And so to me, that was kind of interesting. So, I think that we got, like we talked about last year, players that can play now, contribute immediately, right? We're in a win now mode. And I think that that's okay. Yeah, we need to address that, and we did. And, anything else we can still address, right? Like, if we do need a linebacker, right? There's a couple free agents out there still, I think.
Yeah. No, there are.
Like you can still add, it's not even done yet, right? Like we can still add, like a couple. I can't think it offhand. We're talking draft, but anyway, it was interesting. I think that he is the epitome of a Dan Campbell guy, and this culture fit. Like I said, he's an Aiden Hutchinson style effort and mentality. It's all football all the time. Then church, then hunting, which I appreciate all those things as well. And then Jahmyr, and then Gibbs, same thing, right? In his interview, he's saying like, I do everything in my power not to get in trouble. I just want to play football. Like that's who he is. That's what he says. And so those two guys in their interviews, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now maybe Brad Holmes fell in love with Gibbs. Maybe he just fell in love with him, right? That could have maybe happened. But I do think Campbell is a part of our future, like Hutch, right? And those two can get along with, I think that is kind of what, to John's point, are the culture and what we are as Lions, right? It's that kind of, and Jack Campbell got the, basically
the Butkus award.
Yeah. That's awesome too.
No, again, we're talking about
got the scout, the academic award.
Yeah, that too. We're talking about a guy
he's a penultimate leader. Like, yeah, okay, join the team, right? That makes sense. Like, it's his play, but it's everything else because his play can't get better with Anzalone for 3 years. His play can get there because of his work ethic, and his leadership, and those intangibles are already there. You can't teach those. So to me, I think it's almost more. Like we think we're looking at the draft as just almost 2D, and they're thinking of it as 3D, and it's how it felt after the fact, right? In hearing about it, that's why I said context and all this. I'm like, oh well, if I'd have known that, you know what I mean? Like,
no, totally. Like, no, you're spot on. Like, we live in a world as fans where, again, we don't get to be a part of those meetings. So any type of insight that we get of the draft or of what prospects are good or what prospects are must have and can't miss out, we get from outside sources. And so there's I love Brad's response to mock drafts and all of those types of things where he's very respectful and saying hey, they have their place, but they don't have the full picture. So there's no surprise that there shouldn't be a surprise that we're surprised because we're only getting our information secondhand. Most of us as fans are not doing our own research. We're not studying film. We're not creating big boards and things like that. And at the same time, we're still probably not taking into consideration what this team actually likes because we don't really know. This is Brad's 3rd draft.
Yeah.
And we think we know exactly what he likes. And that's not true. Right? If we were to paint a picture on what type of linebacker Brad Holmes likes, all we have is to go off of is James Houston, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez. So going off of those 3 guys alone, we would automatically assume, well, he likes smaller linebackers because they're all 6 feet or shorter, right? And he likes guys that primarily kind of play on the edge. Jack Campbell is the complete opposite of every linebacker that he's picked, right? So it's we just don't know. I think the thing that we just failed to do is we failed to put enough stock and we fail to put enough belief when they say, hey, we're going to draft the guys we like and we're going to prioritize culture fits. We don't put enough stock into that. because this draft put that on full display. They drafted the guys that they liked, in spite of what mock draft said, in spite of what these analysts said that was like the best players. They took the guys that they liked, and they took the guys that will make the most immediate impact. And that kind of brings you back to what you were saying about Jack Campbell, about being smart and about winning the Butkus Award and winning the academic award. Jack Campbell has the intangibles that will put him on the field day one. It's not the fact that they drafted him at 18 that's going to put him on the field. It's the fact that he is smart enough. They believe that he'll be able to pick up the defense. Right. And the fact that he has the skill set to immediately play day one. The reason that Jahmyr Gibbs will get an equal share of the snaps from day one is because he has the smarts, because he has the playmaking ability that they can trust him to go on the field, give him plays, give him a role, and expect him to execute it at a high level. Position went out the window. It's about, can you come on this team from day one and make an impact? And that's what you got in your first 2 picks, are guys that will start day one and make an impact.
Yeah, and next NGS and ratings, top rated guys, right?
Yeah, athletes. You got
like, that's the other thing. I mean, that's their scale clearly, and that's great. Yeah. So,
no, absolutely. And I could go on and on about Jack Campbell, because I could go on and on about both of these picks. I love both of these guys as players, but I don't want to do any more disservice to Sam Laporta, because, Scotty, to your point, right, we get back into another Iowa guy.
Again?
And not just like another Iowa guy, another Iowa tight end. So a couple of years ago, we picked
Here
TJ
we go
Hockenson.
again. Here we go again.
With Sam Laporta. So, Gian, tell me what you like about Sam Laporta. Tell me what you didn't like, or what you do like about the pick.
This is really the only pick in the draft that I like. I kind of
foo-fooed.
Yeah, kind of. So like
John foo-fooed it.
It was shocking on draft night, but then with Gibbs and Campbell, but then you take a step back and you sort of see the logic of it and whatnot. But and again, doing the research after the fact
and whatnot,
it really seems like Sam Laporta, they really just drafted TJ Hockenson. And like, I was reading about, he's a great guy, great athlete, blah, blah, blah. But then when I'm looking at like, just because I went to a couple different, read his like just prospect, like here's a grade about, and they're like, all of his weaknesses, drops and mediocre blocking. I was like, oh shit, that sounds exactly like TJ Hockenson. So I don't know. And I mean, Darnell Washington was supposed to be the greatest blocking tight end in this class, but then we don't know what the GMs know. And they knew he had a hairline fracture. On like his foot, or like his high ankle, or like on his something, somewhere in like his lower extremity, a hairline fracture, which can be absolutely brutal to recover from. So that's why he fell. And, we didn't know that. No one making mock drafts knew that. But the GM sure did. And so Sam Laporta, I don't know, like, also just the position of tight end, I don't really understand. We got rid of Hockenson, but then I think the tight end room as a whole, up till the first half of the season, I think we had like 6, 9, 8 touchdowns. And then as a room, after Hockenson left, we had 12. And it just seemed like as a room, they were more effective as a unit. And
so, can I answer that? Because I think this kind of plays, yes. I think this plays a little bit into, again, the same thing that we thought about linebacker, right? We all assume like, well, they don't value linebacker because they've never paid one a lot of money and they've never drafted one high until they did. I think the misconception that we had, and Brad, again, shot this down when we talked about the trade for TJ Hockenson. They didn't trade TJ because they didn't like him. They didn't trade TJ because they didn't think he was valuable. They traded TJ because they knew TJ was going to want $13, $14, $15 million. And they at the point that they were at rebuilding this team, they were not ready to allocate those types of funds. So
that's a really good point. Yeah.
We as fans misread that entire trade scenario where we're like, well, they don't value tight end. I'm not just saying you.
That, you are spot on, because I definitely convinced myself that like a player like, and this again, not a knock on TJ as a player, but just the type, what he does, they doesn't fit into what they're doing offensively. And I guess I just convinced myself of that.
Yeah, and I think it was a thing where, again, they actually very much valued what TJ brought to this offense, just not at that price point. The same thing with Jamal, right? They loved what Jamal brought, not at $8 million a year. Like it's a misread by us, and it's I'm not knocking anybody as a fan if you're just like, well, for that. Because again, I probably shared those, or not probably, I did share those same thought process, right? Like you said, they went out here and got 12 touchdowns between 3-4 guys at tight end. So it's like, oh, well, yeah, they don't need a star tight end. They're willing to do it by committee. They sat back and said, no, actually, we do need like a guy. We would love to have a guy that we could depend on. And it kind of reaches back to what I thought originally when they traded TJ, where I was like, man, I get it that TJ wasn't George Kittle 24/7. But when they were down a guy, right? Do you guys remember the game? Like, I think it was 2 games before TJ got traded.
Yeah. Like close to 300 yards or something.
Like, yeah, he had like 120, 140 yards, like receiving and like 2 touchdowns or something. Like, he proved that he was like worth it. But they were just like, dude, at the point where we are with this rebuild, $15 million to our tight end makes no sense.
I guess like I completely, I see that logic in that, it's not that they didn't value, or it's not that kind of player didn't have a place in this offense. It's the price point. I get that. I was just, and again, I had kind of wished that they went DT at this position. And what is interesting, as soon as we took Laporta, there was kind of like a small mini tight end run in the lower in like the mid second round. I think like 3 or 4 went off the board in the next 10 picks. So that's kind of, we did get out in front of it. And so you saying, and again, like with Campbell, everyone, the knee-jerk reaction saying this is a reach, like with Gibbs, this is a reach. Well, again, if the rumors are true, Jack Campbell wasn't going to make it past the Giants. He wasn't going to make it past the Falcons. And Gibbs wasn't going to make it past, 15. And so reach it, whatnot. But I do think it's very curious that as soon as the Bears picked Gervon Dexter, that's when we traded it out. And I think, so again, I'm not saying that, I'm not going to pull this argument that, Sam Laporta like would have been there had we waited. But if they had picked either Keanu Benton or Gervon Dexter, I think they had kind of one of those 2 guys circled. But then, when they were both gone at 55, that's when you saw the trade with the Chiefs. And and now knowing that he has these issues with drops and blocking, I'm like, I kind of wish they would have gone DT there. So Sam Laporta, in my opinion, he's the one player who, I have no right to say this, but I'm like, he's going to have to prove it to me. But no, and I get that. I think my only argument, and probably in defense of Sam Laporta, and in regards to the drops, right? Because blocking is, I did hear they had a horrible QB. Yeah, the Iowa offense sucks. Worst. Like that's all I was gonna say. I did read that. Offense sucks. So, I mean, better quarterback in Jared Goff for sure. Scotty, any thoughts on Sam Laporta, or just the idea of taking tight end at 34?
Yeah, I think
first pick in the second round.
I think the biggest thing for me with Hawk was like his yak, right? His yards after catch, right? Wasn't great.
Yeah.
I think that the guys that we played last year had solid yak. And I think Laporta's got solid yak, and I love the yak.
Oh, no, he doesn't have solid. He has, like,
so
top tier yak.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who we got this year, right? Let's look at Monty, right? Montgomery, right? Gibbs, Laporta. Like, we need players that have yards after catch. So I didn't want to say it one more time. But I think that's to me, that's an upside. I think that's good. I think you get a guy with good hands, right, for some of these tricky plays that Ben is going to draw up, right? Like when we were, what was it? Oh my God, I forget which game, but he was wide open walking in the end zone. Like, please just catch it. Just catch it. He was wide open.
Oh, yeah, the Brock Wright pass.
The Brock Wright pass. He's just like, Don't drop it. Don't drop it. But with Laporta, I don't think I'd have that same thought, right? Like with Ebron or those, but like, because you're going to have these plays drawn up by Ben that are going to be wide open. You just got to catch the ball, right? I mean, with all of the talent we have. So I'm okay with it, right? I get why I get why they did it, right? We talked about, honestly, these three things that we just talked about, these three positions we talked about dealing with in the offseason in free agency, right? And they just did them all in the draft. I mean, running back wasn't one, but I think that when you get in that top 12, 15, I think things happened, right? I think things got moved and they had to make a move, and they did. And then he made a move with Swift. And then I feel like, here's the thing. I think that Holmes has his foot on the gas, and we're just going this way. Get on the bus or get off the bus, because we're going this way. So Swift, you want out? Later. Fine. Like, we're going to keep going. Like, just get on the bus and let's go. And so I think at the end of the day, as an organization, I felt better about the draft than during, clearly. So
yeah, I was gonna say the thing I was gonna say about one thing. Other thing I was gonna say about Laporta is, like, again, I don't think this is the one pick. Well, this is one of the two picks that I think people absolutely should not be upset about, because we knew, right? Remember when the rumors came out, or the news came out, like, oh, the Lions were actually looking to get like Foster Moreau in free agency. Like, they were looking for tight end help. They were looking to upgrade a room that, like we said, they got 12 touchdowns as a unit, but they were still looking for a guy. So this is the one pick that, like, I don't think should catch people off guard. I can understand if you have like a preference, but I don't know. Preferences are like buttholes. We all have one.
Oh boy, here we go. Also, shout out to Pizza Pasties. Hawk was also a very passive blocker.
I mean, he was. And I think if Sam Laporta is at least more willing, then maybe he can be more effective, right? Even if he's not the best blocker, if he's at least more willing to get in there. I think
any of these younger guys are more willing. Yeah, sure, let me do it. I'll do whatever. No?
Yeah. Like, so can we move on to my favorite pick, though?
Yeah.
Like, this was
for sure.
This is my
please.
This is, we talk about Dan Campbell having a man crush on a guy. Like,
oh my gosh,
Brian Branch is that for me.
Oh my gosh.
I will not allow any Brian Branch slander. I will defend this man with my life as if he was one of my children.
Oh,
like,
dear.
That is how much
Miko Branch.
All in on Brian.
Miko Branch t-shirts.
Full disclosure. And you guys can go check my Twitter.
Miko Branch.
I was all on board with taking Brian Branch at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much I loved Brian Branch, where it was like, I might be crazy, but I would take Brian Branch at 6. He is, by Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes' definition, football player in all caps. You put him somewhere in the secondary, Brian Branch is going to make plays. And I also did this on Twitter because shout out to our good friend Eric Schlitt over at Pride Detroit and the writers over there, where they shared like an article that just had a bunch of videos of Brian Branch's highlights. Brian Branch hits people. And when I say he hits people, I don't mean like stuff where you're like, oh, that's going to be a penalty, or hey, he's going to have to dial that back. No. Brian Branch might be the best form tackler in this draft. He hits people, he wraps them up, he drives them. He does not make sloppy tackles. I absolutely love this pick. I believe you can find, like, this is a guy that you find a spot for him in the secondary. And maybe it's not this year because you have invested so heavily in the secondary, and you have Kirby, you have Tracy coming back, CJ, GJ, Cam Sutton, and either Emmanuel Mosley or Jerry Jacobs. Like, you have enough guys in that secondary where Brian Branch doesn't have to play in the secondary. But if we're talking about a matchup and you don't necessarily trust Jack Campbell or Alex Anzalone in man coverage against a tight end, guess who you can go trot out there?
So
Brian Branch.
Yeah.
Go out there and play. Yeah. Go out there and play the will. because you're going to play man up. You're going to man up on that tight end.
Miko, I'm with you. I love this selection too. But Jay Pook disagrees. He says Branch is slow and has a poor sense of fashion.
Fight me outside, Jay Pook.
Also, his name sounds like a trade.
Fight me outside. Fight me outside.
And then he tackles like my mama. And his mother is.
Bring your mama too. You and your mama can meet me outside. How about that?
Sorry, I had to. It was pretty good. Shout out.
No,
Jay
but
Pook.
like I love this dude. I think he's amazing insurance in the event that, again, CJ balls out and you can't afford to bring him back. You have someone that you can immediately slide into that nickel situation. I love this pick. This was the A+. Like this was the pick that, like, you know, there's like the meme where the guy's like kind of like relaxed in the chair playing the games and he sits forward. That was me. Like, that was the thought process I had when Brad Holmes made the Brian Branch pick. It's like, okay, no, like seriously, like y'all gonna start taking these picks serious. I love it. I do. I can't get enough about talking about Brian Branch.
I mean, I'm a hop in. I like it too. I mean, I think that was a position and a player we needed for the future, right? I mean, that's really what it is. That's a future play. It's like Jack Campbell, right? So, to me, they got players that can play now, and that hopefully, right, we have some longevity with them. So I think that's great.
Hey, hold on, really quick before you move on to Gian, at C Perry on YouTube said leave moms alone, cuz he brought his mama into this. All right, he brought his mama into this.
Yeah,
Jay Pook did.
So I don't want to hear nothing about it. He shouldn't have brought his mama into it.
He also said, "So Branch is Okuda?" Question mark. Anyway.
Fight me outside.
Oh, man.
And then hold on, we're Beats and Pasties. Like, I'm here for the Monty Python references, so we're getting a lot of good chat.
Oh man,
keep it up.
Appreciate you guys, everybody in the chat that's hanging out.
Yeah, that's really funny.
No, yeah. If I had any doubts about the Sam Laporta
pick,
I mean, Brian Branch. I mean, to me, this was I mean, as you guys all said, home run. I watched a bunch of reels. I'm not going to say tape because I feel like that term gets thrown around a lot, and I feel like I'm watching highlights, either like highlights or lowlights, and I feel like that's not tape. But I will say the way he hits, it was like the way everyone said, oh, Witherspoon is just the absolute definition of a Dan Campbell guy. The way he hits, the fearlessness, the grit. I mean, you turn around and you watch the Brian Branch hit people, and it is every bit as devastating as Witherspoon. And so and then on top of that, you had multiple scouts saying that this is just purely brain power. Brian Branch very well may be just the all-around smartest individual in the draft. And I mean, right there, like that, the fact that he's got the brains and brawn, the fact that that fearlessness and like that just ferocity matched with I cannot wait, and then that he's gonna, again, the way Campbell's gonna be under Anzalone, like you couldn't ask for a better mentor. Tracy Walker, I think, because Tracy Walker, before, again, I'm not going to say all, but I think our defensive woes last season really got elevated, really got exposed, really got increased when Tracy Walker got injured and went out. And so the fact that, that he was as smart as he is, the captain of the secondary, I'm very, very excited for how he's going to just soak it all up and then rush the line. And I mean, on running plays and on like Miko said, you have such a stacked secondary that you don't have to use him in the traditional sense. So sending Brian Branch as a blitzer is just going to be
Miko.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to let John get it out. There's two things that I want to say, and I'll go right back at it.
Go for it.
First things first. This is how smart Brian Branch is and how talented he is. He started on Alabama's defense as a freshman. Like, wrap your mind around this. Nick Saban does not do that.
No, he started in the NFL. He's a defensive guy. He knows his ish
He knows his
in
secondary
defense,
guys.
and no freshman has started like him and played like that. Yes.
And Nick Saban is saying he's the smartest player he's ever coached. So, like, again, you're not just getting talent. It's the same thing with Jack Campbell. You're not just getting like talent or athleticism or whatever the hell like gets you hard. Whatever gets you excited, it ain't just that. All right. Brian Branch is also intelligent. He is a guy, and we know how much emphasis AG and Dan Campbell put on having smart guys on their defense, especially on the back end. Brian Branch is going to be that again from day one. And then the second thing I had to bring up again, Tony Chase mentioned this in our YouTube chat. And he was in that green room for 2 days. A beast might have been born. You might get your Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Right. I forgot about that.
Right. A dude that he was so sure he was going first in the first round that he's like, no, I'm staying here. I'm walking across that stage. Whoever the hell picks me, I'm walking.
Yeah, dude.
That's a dog.
Dog.
DAGG. Dog.
Absolutely. Well, and then so again, I could say a lot more, but I think the last point that I want to make about Brian Branch is all of the talk about reaching for Gibbs and reaching for Campbell. I remember I was texting with a buddy in Michigan who was like doom. It was just doom spiraling. And I said, okay. And I told him this before the draft started. Yes, but if we get one of Joey Porter, Brian Branch, Keanu Benton, and I listed a few other guys, and I was like, guys who, especially Branch and Porter, projected to go first round. So then in the second round, we get this quote unquote steal. Then won't it just kind of all sort of just balance out? And then what are we upset about? Like, sure, we reached on Campbell at 18, but then we got Branch in the middle of the second round. So I don't know, just like the overreactions were very annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys are like reading the chat and I'm not. And
no. I'm
like,
sitting here with the No,
no, I kind of am. I'm not gonna lie. I have it open on like this screen. At J Pook, I'm done. I'm done with the Branch talk. I will put my Branch away, and we can move on. Hendon Hooker.
I'm not even gonna bring it up.
Hooker. How about that? We can go from Branch to a Hooker.
Snap! Let's branch into the Hooker. Is that,
let's do that.
Now I'm sorry, but Mika, we drafted Hooker. In our draft, we did. And where did we draft him? I don't remember, but it was in the.
It was either second or third round.
I think it was early third.
It might have been the 81 pick. I don't remember exactly, but I do know we did draft him.
We did,
and
we were there on that.
And I guess
Scott, I gotta give Scott his credits. I did not want to do that, so.
Yeah, and I can start. Listen, I can start with it because I'm okay with it. All right, so we did it in the draft. I talked Miko into it. He did not like it. Myself in the chat talked Miko into it, and we did. And the reasons why were because look, he's on an injury, right? We did it with JMO. We'll get him back. See what you got. No problem. No pressure, Jared Goff. Hey, dude, no, he's injured. No problem. He's a backup. But if he's good, look out. I mean, so, and also when you watch this tape, dude can play. Now he needs to learn about more complicated offenses. Yes, he has a lot of work to do. But here's the thing. We don't need him this year. We don't even need him next year. But if he can be the film guy, if he can be the guy to push, right, anybody else, like push everybody, right? The backup quarterback's supposed to push, the defense, everybody. So he's going to be a great teammate. And because he was a leader and a great leader with his team, I mean, he might just get the Lions to rally around him, in the next 2 years when everybody gets to know him. And so we'll see how that plays out. However, I feel like as long as he can stay healthy fix that knee. He's got talent. You know, he rushed for 400 yards. That was low key. Like, nobody really talked about that. He can throw vertically, and to what Brad Holmes said, he's aggressive in the pocket, like looking aggressive, and that's what we need in the NFL, right? I mean, that's what's happening, right? Was Mahomes, Allen, these guys look aggressive, and then they figure it out after that. So now I'm not saying that that's perfect, but if we can raise this guy as our own, right? He's a Lion Cub right now, but we can bring him up, and I'm just saying, like, this to me is a great solution to a backup, right? So clearly Teddy Bridgewater's not signing with us, but that's fine. But this is, I think, what we're going to do with Sudfeld and Hendon. And I think that's, you know what? I think that's, again, something we talked about in free agency, right? And so we've addressed it here in the draft. I think it's okay. I mean, let's say his knee isn't busted up. I mean, is he the top 2, top 3 QB in this draft?
Talent-wise, maybe, but I think you would have saw Hendon Hooker still go on a similar slide as Will Levis.
Ooh, dude, I think there's so much completely opposite people, though.
This is why. But it's the age, right? The age is what would have kept Hendon Hooker from getting drafted in the top half of the first round.
That's fair, but this is why it makes him a great backup to Goff right now. That, to me, the age makes it like, okay, I got patience. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I made it, and I'm here to, like, work it out. I mean, look at, I just think that that's helpful in this situation as a backup and not being drafted as the number one. Like, I mean, not that he could be. He could have, but, like, that'd be dumb. But I think that's a good thing here. Age of 24?
25.
24 and a half?
No, he's 25. He's clearly 25.
As a joke, guys.
Oh, no, but like
24 and 300 days.
I didn't love Hendon Hooker's game, right, in college, and it's hard to say, right? I don't know if it's his fault. It's probably more so Tennessee's fault because of the offense they run, but it's one of those things where you evaluate it and you're just like, well, Scotty, to your point, the positives are he has the physical tools. He has the ability to make throws. He's athletic. He's not afraid to make the big time throws. So to your point about Ben Johnson being able to draw up these big plays, if there's a deep shot, I don't think Hendon Hooker's going to second guess it. Like, he's used to reading offenses that way where it's like deep to short. So like if he has a deep shot to Jahmyr or to Reynolds or Sam Laporta or Marvin Jones or whoever it may be, he going to let it fly. He would let it fly on that play, right? He's going to probably be a little more aggressive in the pass game than Jared Goff is at times. But I love the value. So again, if we get back to like the whole positional value talk, yeah, I love Hendon Hooker in the third where they got him. I would have loved Hendon Hooker in the second, in all honesty. If they had decided to like stay at 55 and they took him in the second, I wouldn't have hated that, but they traded back and they got him near the top of the top of the third. So
in that moment, that pick even more. In that moment, that's a great play. I do think that is a move for sure.
Yeah. So I think Hendon Hooker is your quarterback of the future. I'm gonna just say that right now. Like, I agree. I think he is the guy because we've kind of talked about it. I think if you're Jared Goff, you're somewhat in a lose-lose situation. And I don't want this to turn into like a full-blown golf conversation.
We're not going there. No, we're not going there. It's just reality, guys. We're just commenting on what reality is.
When looking at the landscape, Jared Goff to me is kind of in a lose-lose situation from a contract standpoint. If Jared Goff balls out, Lions go to the NFC Championship.
Perfect.
Or they go to the Super Bowl. Jared Goff's price tag skyrockets. And now if you're Brad Holmes, do you want to pay $45, $50 million a year to Jared Goff?
Let me flip it, Miko. Goff's a lose-lose, but the Lions win-win, right? Yeah. So
for sure.
Right.
It's a situation where it's like, and again, if they fall short, right? I'm not saying like if they win it, like, I mean, yeah, you're going to really have to determine like, okay, if they won the Super Bowl, like, do we pay Jared Goff? But I think you still have that situation where you're like, hey, for whatever reason that gets you to the Super Bowl, I think this regime would look at it and be like, well, this is what Jared Goff did with this talent. We have Hendon Hooker, much more feasible option. We drafted him because we like his skill set. We think his skill set is comparable, if not better, to Jared Goff's. Maybe we don't succumb to paying $50 million and hamstringing our organization for the next few years, and we let Jared walk, or we trade Jared to a contender, get some compensation while his value is at its highest, and we roll with Hendon.
Right.
Like,
he
could
could
on
be
the flip side, if he's bad, if Jared Goff is bad, well, then you're out anyway.
He could be a bridge quarterback he could be a bridge quarterback to a Hall of Fame quarterback too. Like, you got it, like a couple years, we get the team, then you give up all your assets to get the guy. You know what I mean? Like, there is a conversation which I never thought would be possible in the next couple of years. If we have everything else and we just need one thing, okay, like, then you can pull a Rams.
I just think the Lions are going to want that financial flexibility because, again, you're going to have to pay Panay. You're going to have to pay Amon-Ra. If J-Mo turns out to be that guy, you're going to have to pay J-Mo. You're going to have to pay Aiden. If Aiden, again, continues to be good, like, that's really hard to do when your quarterback is taking up $50 million a year. It becomes a lot easier to do when you have a quarterback that's a third-round pick that's even cheaper than taking a guy in the first round. Now, obviously, you're going to pay that guy a little bit sooner because you don't have the fifth-year option, but he's still cheap for like those 3 to 4 years that you have him. And you're able to pay other guys and allocate contracts in a way. Yeah, you're able to set up contracts in a way to where paying him in a couple years is not as bad. You'll still have everyone around him, and he's paid. You'll have a Jalen Hurts situation.
Brad Holmes is in construction, and he just builds giant freeway intersections so he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Options.
And this is
over here, exit over there. It's full. He makes options.
And this is where Hendon Hooker's age comes into play for me, and it's only in that, like, that decision has to be made quickly, because the longer you take to make that decision, the more likely Hendon Hooker just looks like QB2 forever.
Well, based on what I saw with Swift, I don't think he's going to waste a lot of time if he has to. Like I said,
Brad Holmes has not done that. Yeah, he makes these decisions like he's made it quickly with Hawk. He's made it quickly with Okudah,
which is fair
with Jamal.
Which is fair to everyone, the players and the organization. And I think that's all we can ask in these conversations, not the draft, but like in these conversations, keeping or letting go. I think that's all you can ask is like definitive, decisive, and that's it, and going with it. And yeah, he can make mistakes, and he will, right? Everybody does. But as long as it's quick, fast, and painless, that's all right.
Ooh, Jay Pook out here dropping tease ideas. I like it.
Well, yeah, that's what my whole concept. That's my whole concept.
Man.
Yes, it's called Twitch, John. You can sign up for it. It's free. Also like Twitter, it's also free. So yeah, the Brad Holmes Construction Co. Yeah, that's pretty good. No, but that's what it makes me think of, right? All the options, like exit here, like, oh, we just got to make an exit,
Yeah.
Oh, Pizza and Pacey's, thanks for now following. We must have convinced him to follow. Nice.
See, we're out here doing Brad Holmes. We're convincing you guys. You were a little rocky in the first half.
It was.
We're getting you.
Pizza and Pacey's, a couple comments in. Oh, Sibman, am I now following? Also in the comments. Appreciate you both. Welcome to the family.
Appreciate you guys on Twitch and YouTube. Gian, get in here about the QB talk though, because
yes, please.
I
was going to chime in and say I don't really have anything to talk about, so I was going to go back to Brian Branch.
No, stop. No, we branched the hooker. So, talk about the hooker.
So the thing, like the only thing I
talk about the hooker, John. We all want to know. What did he do to you?
He was very polarizing, and I know like a lot of people were just very adamant about not taking him, just like they didn't want anything to do with him. And then so when we did, and then I went back and I watched, I was like, what? I don't understand. Like, there's the age, sure, and then the injury. When you watch him play, dude, his touch on the deep passes is like those things like drop in. Again, sometimes the wide receivers were making it happen.
You like the hooker's touch?
Yeah, I mean, hookers drop.
Oh my!
Hookers touch on the deep balls. Oh. I was trying so hard not to say
I was too, but like it was a layup.
It's so bad.
No, and I was just like, I don't understand like the controversy, especially now. Again, going back to the positional value, you get him in the third round. Like I don't see even given the age, given the injury, like because what Scott said, he doesn't have to play this year. He barely probably will have to, like, barring some catastrophe where Jared Goff goes down for an extended period of time, like he's not going to have to play.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
No, listen.
Barring an injury, no. That Goff, he's saying barring Goff getting it. Don't.
So that he's gonna,
because then you get to see sooner. I'm not saying I want Jared Goff to get hurt.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want him to get. I don't want him to get hurt. Not that John does.
I don't either. But if it happened and Hendon Hooker was healthy, you don't think the entire city of Detroit would get like a?
Oh, I'd love to see it too. Yeah,
mildly aroused and like the Hooker's coming. The Hookers showing up. So I'm just saying.
Sorry, John.
I'd be excited.
Yes, I'd be excited too. But sorry, John.
No, it's all right because that's all I really had to say. And then I just wanted to say, very very quickly, is one thing I remember when with the defensive struggles last season, AG came out and he said, we had this system, this style of defense that we wanted to implement, and it turns out that it was a little too complicated. And it was like the players were having trouble executing it. And so they had to dumb it down. And so they dumbed it down to like bare bones, and like right around slightly after, I think it was like Miami. And so they went bare bones. And then as they got more comfortable with their bare bones, they started adding the layers of complexity back up to the kind of like by the end of the season. And AG said it still wasn't where he kind of wanted it, like masking coverage and whatnot. It still wasn't where he wanted it by the end of the season, but it was getting closer. And I just feel like that was kind of another reason why you pick guys like Jack Campbell and Brian Branch, who can go into this, and the learning curve for a complicated style of defense is going to be much, much steeper. Or I think, steeper. Though, like, they're just going to pick it up quickly, and you're not going to have those growing pains that you had last season. And so, again, Brian Branch, but hookers. And I'll do a shout out for someone in the comments. C. Perry, Michigan's got hookers and weed now. That's cool.
Dude, I won't even go down that road, because like that was an observation I made recently. It was like, we have a lot of like dispensaries up here. Like, I don't know in relation to like other states, but it's like there's a lot.
Yep,
it's a lot of advertising. Speaking of advertising, one thing that the Lions did not advertise was their love for Broderick Martin, the defensive tackle out of Western Kentucky.
Monster.
Ooh.
He is a mammoth of a man.
Masterfully executed, Nico. That was a great
monster
transition.
I try, man. I try every once in a while.
Jabba.
But man, I don't have a ton to say about Broderick Martin other than like mammoth of a man. Like,
he's a fast. I watched his tape. Fast, big man. Quick feet. If he can move it.
I wish he was a little stronger at that size. Like, I would love to see him push people back a little bit more at that type of size and that type of, like, again, that height weight balance, like, where it's like, dude, you should be manhandling these people as if they're your children.
I think that's the goal of our athletic department, to get him there. That's Dan's like, okay, get him like that. Like, and maybe they can. If they can muscle him up, give him 2 years. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
We're getting to the point of like where guys are like not starting. We don't need them starting right away. Now he's great in the center, right, Miko?
Yeah, he'll be rotational with him and Isaiah Buggs,
but give him 2 years, right? Beef, like, just get strong. Okay, put some muscle on that. That could be interesting.
I mean, again, we'll have to wait and see how the offseason goes. I mean, we've already been waiting this long. We might as well continue to wait on the Levi Onwuzurike experiment. But if you're able to get Levi back in a way where he can at least contribute, be in rotation with Aleem, well, now you have 2 defensive tackles that can play the 3 tech that are quick twitch, can get in the backfield type of guys, and you have 2 guys that can eat up blockers in Isaiah Buggs and Broderick Martin.
Right.
And
Gives
that's
Bugs
exciting
rest.
for what, and that's exciting for what this defense could be, because again, then you can it just gives your defensive line even more flexibility than it already has. Again, John Kaminsky, Josh Pascal, like those guys can play inside, outside. You just have so many bodies that you can kind of start to throw at an offensive line to where there's really like no rest or relief, on their part, where again, we can play a style of like, if you're an Indianapolis Colts type of team where you want to run it down our throats, or, we have to play Atlanta this year. Atlanta has 3 backs that you're just pretty sure like they're going to try and have a really strong rushing attack. Well, we have the guys to kind of match up with you. And I think that's something that they kind of witnessed, and they kind of was a revelation after the Carolina game, was like, Isaiah Buggs and Aleem McNeil can't be the only solution. Right. And I get that they try to get the most out of Benito Jones, and they'll probably continue to do that in training camp. I get that John Kaminsky is really good in certain situations, and the same with Josh Pascal. But like, Kaminsky and Pascal are probably better off playing those defensive tackle positions on pass rushing downs, where they can stunt and do things like that with Aiden and James Houston, or Romeo or Charles Harris. Now that, they'll be healthy this year, like, Broderick Martin may not be the guy that we knew and the guy that we were all circling, but when you look at, again, his makeup, you look at his tape, and you look at what he could be for this defense, it's a kind of a perfect match, I think, for what the Lions actually needed.
Yeah, like just a massive human being to free up Aleem to eat up space, eat up humans, to allow Aleem to like to be more of the Twinkle Toes,
Dancing Bear, all the nicknames.
Yeah. I mean, to like really showcase his athleticism, because I think, because we didn't have, to your point, Miko, because the bodies weren't there, McNeil had to do things that he's good at, but not great. And if we have, and nice. And so if we have other people doing that, then the net frees up McNeil to be who to do what he's great at. And so this was funny. This was a facet of just the Lions having 5 picks in the top 100, was that when we got to Broderick Martin, I was like, in my mind, I was like, that this is like the throwaway. Cause like, again, I hadn't heard of him. I hadn't, there was no, buzz or anything about him, at least from the Lions camp. And so when we got to him, I was like, oh, okay, we're at that point in the draft where we're like, this guy's not even going to make it out of training camp, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like a couple hours later when I like looked back and I was like, oh, wait a second. He's pick 96.
Yeah, he's a third round pick. Like,
he's a third round pick. So like, I guess just like that much time had elapsed and we had that many picks that like my attitude for it. So like, once I kind of reoriented myself to just how much prime real estate the Lions, how many prime picks the Lions had, I looked back and I was like, oh shit, dude, like this guy's 96. Like, no, my initial read was just based off of, that's a name. Oh, we go next. Great. Okay, awesome. Hendon Hooker, Brian Brandt. You're like, man, we're doing good. And then like, okay, now I can forget about it. But then, top 100, baby.
Yeah, Broderick Martin is going to have a role, and it's going to be a big one, I think. Again, I go back to what Brad Holmes said during the owners meetings when he was like, yo, they love Bugs, but he played too many snaps. Well, you have someone in there that can alleviate some of that pressure on Isaiah Buggs. Scotty, any
Scott, you had a
thoughts
smile.
on
You had a wry grin that you had looked like you were
I always do.
Cooking something up. You did not
draft
night.
What else is it's pissed. So on Broderick?
Yeah.
No,
any final thoughts?
No, he's got to get in the gym. He's going to get into our new training facility, new trainers, right?
Yeah,
right. We have a new training staff. like that's what I'm talking about. I'm looking in the chat, like, we have a new training staff,
I forgot about that. That's a
so
great
our whole
goal.
fitness staff is new. So all these guys that you see, like what they can do, I think you can add 5 to 10%. Like if you're in Madden, like add 5 to 10%, right? Like put up like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like where do you want a Gibbs to go? Faster? Okay. Up that like 15, right? Where do you want Broderick to go? Leaner? Oh, stronger? Okay. Up that. They could probably get him up in, 15, 20%. So all these guys you're seeing, they're going to get stronger in 1 year, right? With these programs, the meals, like you're living it now, right? I know Division I, cool. That's cool. But this is like life. So,
yeah.
I
think we saw that with Aleem, right? Aleem's been talking about it, is that like after year one, like the next 2 years, these like past 2 off seasons, he's been like, like really dialing in on his nutrition and being able to get stronger and still, like, again, be at a comfortable weight where he can still be a force, but be healthier at the same time so that he can be on the field.
Right. Not get injured, right? Hell, stretching, all that. Like they have these guys doing everything. So I think, John, you brought this up, before you went on your baby hiatus, but like that we had the new, like we got the new trainers in
turf. Yes, the NFL Players Association #1 most preferred.
No, not the turf. No, our new trainers.
The new head of
the head of athletic fitness.
Oh yes, yeah. I do vaguely
that
remember
was
that.
Yeah, okay, but anyway, yeah, that was a long time ago, and you've not slept.
It was a lifetime ago.
He has not slept since. I want everybody to know that's why he does not remember. He has not slept since. I can attest to that. So anyway, but that's what I'm saying with this. So we can move on. I just think that he's going to get fit. We're going to get
2 more picks to get through,
let's go.
and we have a couple of just like a little more generic topics to kind of like touch on quickly. But
year he puts
we get into the 5th round, pick 152. Lions pick offensive lineman Colby Sorsdahl out of William and Mary. Didn't even know that was a college. Not even gonna lie to you. Didn't know it was also like the second oldest college in the U.S.
Jon Stewart went to William and Mary. Of the Daily Show fame.
I love Jon Stewart. He's awesome.
Yeah.
But Colby Sorsdahl, I mean, again, I don't know.
How do you follow that up,
Martin.
John? What do you like? That's not a good lead up,
John.
The way Nico led you in the transition, this is not how you gift him back. That you got to try it again, John. Wait, John, try it again. Try it again. Do it again.
I got something.
Okay, go.
So Colby Sorsdahl out of William and Mary. Didn't know that was wasn't one of the oldest schools in the U.S. Gian?
I didn't know either, and I had never heard of Corey Sorsdahl until Brian Baldinger, Baldy's Breakdowns, Twitter, great resource. He was an NFL O-lineman himself. He does these like minute-long, 2 minute, 3 minute, however long Twitter allows you, and he needs better equipment because it's literally him just recording his TV with his
on
phone.
His phone.
Yeah. It's but he's a great source of insight into O-line, and he posted this. So someone dug it up because he posted this like April 4th about Colby Sorsdahl. He said, this kid, no one's talking about him, but his footwork is perfect. He could work on his hand placement. They said, but his hips, the lower half of his body, his hips, his alignment, his footwork is perfect. And he played a couple clips, and he's like, look at how he drives players forward, and then his like downfield tackling, like what we love about Panay, like what we that sweep from Swift that we were just talking about, Panay's downfield on like that one JMO touchdown, or like that Panay Sewell was like the second guy into the end zone. So Baldy broke down how Sorsdahl is like that kind of downfield tackler as well. And I was like, okay, like if he's just, because I mean, again, with my thoughts on Broderick Martin kind of more apply to Sorsdahl, if he is just depth, he's much needed depth on that O-line after we lost Evan Brown. So again, fingers crossed, Vitai's coming back. He's back in the facility. He's back working out. So yeah, hopefully Vaitai returns to form, and Sorsdahl can just be a much needed depth piece. Because I remember every time, Tommy Kramer was solid, but Dan Skipper, man, like when you saw him come in, it was just like, we're going to be getting the ball out quick. When Skipper came in, and so that was Anyway,
so
was that better, Scott?
So real quick, yes, John, that was great. But real quick, I wanted you to read Miko into his right. Miko, is that, or did I miss that?
No, I was doing the handoff. I was the quarterback in that situation. I was trying to put it in the pocket.
I didn't know. Okay. All right. Just making sure, because I'm like over here, like Gion's like still going the transition. I go, this is the longest transition of my life, but it's okay.
No, that's, again, Scotty's playing the role of the coach. He made me and Gian run it back, get the rep in again. Don't drop the ball on the transition, and we got it better on the second try. But no, Gian, I will pick up where you left off. That's the thing that I like about Sorsdahl, is that, like, you can see the mean streak in the tape. You can see the ability, the willingness to finish. And again, that size, where he has the type of size and the versatility to play tackle if they so chose to. But I mean, more than likely, they're probably going to try to play him at guard for the time being. Just as a developmental thing, because he's not needed to start, and he has two really good veterans that he can learn behind, between Vaitai and Glasgow. So, you know, they tried him out at guard during like the Shrine Bowl, or East and West. It was one of those, but like he's getting accustomed to it. But like, that's the beauty of having him on the team. And I think when you look at some of the other developmental guys that they've tried to bring in, whether they be UDFAs or whatnot, I think he has a better chance of making that transition a little bit smoother, because he's been playing at the position longer and just kind of seems to have that type of attitude. So you get a guy like that seems to have all the technical skills, pair him up with Hank Fraley, pair him up with these veteran offensive linemen, and hope that you find, you know, something really special that you can develop. At worst, he's a depth piece in the event that somebody goes down. At best, he's a future, again, starter at one of the guard spots, or even one of the tackle spots, in the event that, you know, Taylor decides to move on. You have to shuffle Panay to the left. You have somebody that can fill in at right.
Scott?
No, I mean, I agree with Miko. I don't. I mean, dude, I just like his attitude, right? From what I saw, his attitude.
Yeah.
Right. You're getting another guy that's an attitude. Yeah. You're getting a nasty player. You're getting a dog. Right. That's I think where we're at this part of the draft. It's like, okay, let's continue to gather these dogs. Let's get them together and see how it plays out. Right. I mean, I think at this point, this is all right. Let's see what we can get out of this person in our culture, in our atmosphere. And maybe we start changing it from culture to atmosphere. Because if you think about, like, in a locker room and in a team, it's an atmosphere. Like we say culture, it's all of that. But like, I'm very curious to see how these guys will react, right? Maybe they'll get mad. Sure. Maybe they don't fit. Maybe they play even better because of it. Maybe they shrink. And so you got to figure that out in an NFL team, right? Again, we got to keep in mind, this is college NFL. There's a jump. I don't care what anybody says, right? With all this,
specifically with Sorsdahl and Martin, right? Where they're going to see a much steeper climb in talent.
Specifically Martin, in my opinion, because he's so big, right? Miko, to your point of him not being as strong, like, no, just because he's big doesn't mean you're going to get. You got big guys that are strong, right? You know what I mean? Like, come on,
you got little guys that are
strong.
Like,
yeah,
you're
that's
gonna go
true.
Get some guards that are going to be smaller than you, but their technique is better, or they've been in the weight room a little bit longer.
Yeah, to me, these picks are bigger picture. Like, okay, can they make it work? Right? Like, where's their spot? Can they fit in? Can they make it work?
I tend to agree with that thought process for sure. And then finally, the Lions wrapped up their draft with wide receiver Antoine Green out of North Carolina, or is it Anton? Yeah, but the wide receiver out of North Carolina. Again, 7th round pick. It's a guy that
Antoine.
You know, you hope that he comes in and he competes.
It's Antoine. Sorry, I was on mute. Antoine.
I thought you meant like he's a 7th round pick. It's Antoine. I didn't think you were like.
This is why we need Gian. This is why, Gian, you're so missed in this moments. Like, Miko looked at me like, what? Thank you for that.
But
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
He's a guy.
Love it. I love this one.
Big wide receiver, can play on the outside. if we were looking at like play styles, he's probably a little similar to Marvin Jones in the event that he was just like, had a lot of deep catches over in North Carolina. And I think that he's a guy that they'll test out and see if he can probably steal a spot from one of these other, bottom of the roster wide receivers. Looking at, Tom Kennedy, like there's some competition. They lost out on Cephas. So again, you bring in somebody that doesn't necessarily he's not the answer to Jamo by any means, but again, replenishing that bottom part of the wide receiver group where again, you provide a little more competition between Tom Kennedy, Trinity Benson, even Stanley Berryhill, who's also going to be suspended. But again, you're creating competition at the bottom of the draft or at the bottom of your roster for the wide receiver group. And from a skill set standpoint, Green seems like he'll be a nice addition to that group. And if he can really if that skill set can translate, I can see how he can find a spot on this team.
Scotty, you should go because I have nothing. My research ended with Sorsdal.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. So
it's good to know that you're a part-time fan, John.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, no,
I didn't finish my homework before class.
No, so. He's a speedster. So to he's quick too. Like you're getting, this is perfect for what we need, right? We lost a couple assets, like our wide receiver room, right? Clearly everybody knows what happened. I won't have to repeat it, but you're going to get a guy that might be able to work his way in, to some of the game. And I think this is just a great asset to have and see where he can go. Really, he's fast, right? He's big and fast. So what else can we ask for? And so this is another one of the guys, like I said, at the end of the draft, let's get him, right? Let's get the Cubs in the den here and see where they where they sort out, right? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Yeah, but not just in general, on the team. I guess is the big thing, right? We're talking strengths and weaknesses for the draft. Forget that now. What are your strengths and weaknesses on the squad, right? I think that's a huge difference that we don't talk about enough is cool. That's you doing athletic stuff. Hey, this is our team. Where do you fit? Right? And where do you want to fit? Where do you want? I think
it's more so what else do you do? Right? Because we can all sit here and say hey, Green is a great deep threat. He's a speedster. That's great. But we're not going to send you on go routes every time you go on the field. Wow. So can you catch a slant? Can you run a slant? Can you make tough contested catches over the middle? This is as a 7th round draft pick, you have to prove that you are versatile outside of wide receiver. Can you play special teams? Can you be a gunner? Because we know Jamo will go out there and play gunner. So if the dude we drafted at 12 is willing to go that's how badly he wants to be on the field where he would play gunner, do you have that same drive? And what other value do you provide to this team outside of your natural position? And so, the Green pick is nice. It's, again, there's some nice traits there. Like Jay Pook said, his highlight reel is definitely candy when you look at all of these deep shots and these end zone catches and going, keeping that offense explosive. But again, as a 7th round pick, he's going to have to prove that he can do more.
He's going to get on the Amon-Ra training, the 200.
Well, right. You get
Jugs catches.
Right.
As we saw last night, the report that came out that Amon-Ra was doing that. That's just his routine. And then kind of the entire wide receiver room started doing that. And now it's just a thing that all of the they all do now. And so just, get him on that Amon-Ra training regimen.
At Jay Pook, Green is Hendon Hooker's kind of wide receiver.
I was just thinking that when you were talking about the deep threat and the end zone. I was just thinking that. Good call, Jay Pook.
Gee Willikers, Batman. Maybe there is a plan out there.
So all right, guys. So I want to do we can kind of do these rapid fire. I don't think we have to get into real deep discussions, but we talked about each pick individually. Let's get some just early takes out there, in recapping the draft. When looking at this draft class, Scotty, who do you think makes the biggest impact day one on this team?
Oh, day one impact?
Yeah.
Day one.
I guess it doesn't have to be day one, but
okay, so
biggest impact on this team.
Big. Okay. So I'm gonna say day one biggest impact is Gibbs. No, I mean this is.
Okay.
I have my favorite.
Struggling with. It's
Yeah,
like,
hold on. No, because
what does day one mean?
dude, yes. Day one,
no, just who makes
it was
the
the
biggest
impact, or day one biggest impact. Somebody could come in like Houston. That was a big impact. That was a day
That's
one.
fair. Okay.
Like,
okay, it's fair.
Calm your butters down.
Your butters.
I don't know. That's what my daughter calls what her horse is. It's in my head. I'm sorry. It's weird. Anyway. So Gibbs, day one, immediate impact. Yeah,
Okay.
I think
I think just for the fact of like because of how weak the unit as a whole is, I think it's got to be Jack Campbell.
Yeah, and that was my pick as well. I think it's Jack Campbell. I think you'll see his impact sooner. And I think it'll be something that's felt throughout training camp. I mean, we got excited over like what Malcolm was doing.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just feel like Jack is going to take it to another level.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So in your opinion, like obviously we spend so much time talking about the Lions, but like again, the Lions aren't the only team drafting and the Lions aren't the only team getting better. When you look at the NFC North, where do you think the Lions stand after the draft?
Scott.
At the top. Period.
I agree. The Bears are nipping at our heels, though. I think they had a monster draft. Like
Bears had a good draft.
They drafted trenches. Like they did what Brad Holmes did last year. They went OT, DT, DT. I
feel like they're a year behind us though, so I feel like we're atop this year.
Yeah.
Well, so and this is what I kind of feel like. I still think the Lions are at the top of this. I think they're still leading the pack, but the Bears closed the gap, in my opinion. I had said it earlier after like free agency where Justin Fields, like the Bears are the team that concerns me the most as far as like with the NFC North being fairly wide open, but the Lions definitely having the inside track. The Bears are the team that to me that could quickly close that gap because their quarterback is the most dynamic. And if he makes the type of leap, if he makes a Jalen Hurts type leap, NFC North looks very different. Mm-hmm. It becomes very much a battle. I don't think they overtake the Lions, but it becomes way more of a fight to cleanly win the NFC North. So yeah, the Lions are still at the top, but Gian, I agree. The Bears definitely had a really good draft. And yeah, they closed the gap a little bit in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think they overtook. I mean, I didn't really pay attention to the Packers draft or the Vikings draft, but
Packers got 2 tight ends
and a wide receiver.
Okay,
yeah, let's get some tight ends. Aaron Rodgers is gone. Let's get some tight ends. Yeah, let's get some tight ends.
Let's get some pass catchers.
Yeah, let's get some pass catchers and tight ends. Let's call it a day. Yeah, we got it. Oh my God.
Yeah, no,
like, FTP.
Because like I really wasn't
loved seeing that noise.
Yes, what? And I wasn't really making an effort to pay attention to anyone else's draft, except for the fact that, you know, as we talked about, I had Gervon Dexter and or Keanu Benton as, you know, on my list, and then we pick 55 and then 53 Bears scoop up Gervon Dexter, and then we had talked about on the Miko, you had talked about on the episode with Eric Schlitt, Darnell Wright. And he was your pick at 18, and you know, just the biggest monster on the O-line. Bears scoop him with it for like, yeah. I just checked. They went OT, DT, CB, DT, and then I mean, yeah, building from the trenches. I mean, so
yeah, I kind of poked some fun at Ryan Matthews over at Pride of Detroit when they picked wide receiver Tyler Scott, because like, Ryan had mentioned something about like, oh, Tyler Scott would be a great pick for the Lions, like I think in the 5th round or something like that. And then like the next pick that was made was like the Bears taking Tyler Scott, and I was like, Ryan, don't look,
dude.
Because like they took every player that we were like, oh, these guys would be good on the Lions, and like the Bears scooped them up, and so it's. They had an impressive draft. I think that's like the best way I can say it. It was one of those types of drafts, Gian, like you were saying, wasn't necessarily trying to pay attention to who everybody was picking, but there were certain teams like when you just saw like their pick, like, man, they got another good player. Man, they got, like the Bears were one of those teams.
Yeah.
All right. So to wrap up today's show, I mean, the draft is over. We kind of
wait. We didn't do favorite picks though. Can we do favorite picks?
We know what Miko's is.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, I know. Let's do favorite picks because I think this will be interesting. I think this will be different. I think the ones that have the most impact, that made sense. But favorite picks, I think these will be different. I mean,
right,
Miko,
Scotty, well, then you lead us off.
Hendon Hooker.
I already went.
Hooker's my favorite pick, and no one's gonna like it. I think it's my favorite pick because I think it plans out the future with what we need to do to bridge between this quarterback and the next one. I love that pick. I'm glad they got it done.
I disagree. I think a lot of people are like on board with that pick. I think a lot of people again like the value. That's like that and the Brian Branch pick feel like the two picks that the Lions made where people were like, oh, the value matches where they were picked.
To me, though, the Hooker pick, like I think I do see a lot in him and a lot of potential. Like that to me is my favorite pick. I mean, the Branch pick is great, right? Like don't get me wrong. Like but like Branch and Hooker are my two favorites. But if I had to pick between the two, it's the Hooker pick. Because A, the name, and B, quarterback.
You sure to have a happy ending?
I don't know. John just left. He got offended.
No, I think he probably has something to do. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I've already gone on and on about Brian Branch, obviously being my favorite. We'll see if Gian can join us. Oh, he's back.
He just
Gian,
popped
favorite
in.
pick, really quick.
I'm gonna just sound like I'm just echoing you.
Oh my God!
But I like just because you had me like looking into him. He was one of the few guys who like before the draft I actually knew about and looked into. And then where we got him, he fell. And then the fact that he kind of also made up for this whole narrative on reaching, because you reach and then steal balances out. I gotta go Brian Branch. And then he had the like, again,
oh my God,
fashion sense. Who made the comment about his fashion sense? That jacket he had was awesome.
That jacket was awesome. Like, I don't know. He was like
John, we should use that tree root logo you had done and do a branch tee off of that. Remember that should be the branch. Like it's like the roots.
Oh man.
So nobody knows it, but it's crazy. It's like a redwood tree with giant roots, and then it spreads up. It's
like
actually pretty good.
Roots.
Yeah, it's pretty good design. It's actually fun. J Boop wants to know more, Miko. Miko, please tell us more.
DM me, J Boop. We can share. All right. So yeah, biggest takeaways from the draft. So we can kind of wrap this podcast up. We're already closing in on 2 hours.
That's okay. We did okay.
I'll start us off. My biggest takeaway from the draft is basically, again, and I'm saying this, I'm going to say fans, but I'm also like including myself in this conversation. One of the biggest things that came out about this draft for me is more so how the fans reacted to it and how we all like, specifically like the first round, and how so many of us are saying they lost or they won. And it's like, you guys know me in the sense that like, I'm always trying to be a better fan. I'm always trying to be a more knowledgeable fan. I'm obviously going to have emotional reactions to things, but I want to be knowledgeable when we come onto this platform and we give our opinions and things of that nature. And so this draft taught me like, yo, as a fan, I got to do better in my analysis. If I'm going to be this involved and this invested in the draft process, do more research. Do your best to watch film and not just watch highlight reels. Do your due diligence, not to just lean on the words and advice of, again, they're analysts and they're look, the Daniel Jeremiahs, the Mel Kipers, the Todd McShays, like these guys have been doing this for a long time. So I understand why we lean on their words, right? And their analysis of these players. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to, or that you can't do your own, right? YouTube is free. You can still go out there and find game tape. It may not be all 22. You may not get every angle, but you can do some due diligence. So my biggest takeaway is like, yo, going into next draft or going into future drafts, yeah, I'm going to probably work a little bit harder, and not just to look for like, hey, who's the best players at these positions, but who are the best players for the Lions specifically? And like, so for me, like that was kind of like my biggest takeaway from this draft class. or this draft in general.
John, go ahead.
To build off what Miko just said, Mel Kiper out, Dane Brugler out, Charlie Campbell, number one. He was like the only guy who had like he did a couple. I think he did two, and over the course of those two, he actually picked. I think except for one, I think he nailed our first 5 picks. Between now they weren't all in the same mock, but between the two, he had all like I think he had the Gibbs at 18. He had like Jack Campbell at but anyway, so Charlie Campbell at Walter Football. That's if you're gonna listen to someone,
shout out.
That's a great one. But my big takeaway was Brad Holmes believes we are in win now.
Yeah.
That's my big takeaway. Immediate.
No, John likes to linger. He wants to keep going. No, it's a compliment, John. I just know you were still going. Just keep going.
Immediate contributors win now.
For the record, I don't think your wife probably minds that you linger, that you take your time and just.
Thank you.
So don't let Scotty put you down because you like to linger.
Yeah, I'm sure she doesn't. So following that up, I think the big thing is the draft taught us that we can't predict Brad Holmes. Right? He has a vision, he has a plan, and we know nothing about it. And when we think we know something, we do not. When we think we have a hint, we do not. When we had Eric Schlitt on a couple weeks ago, or was it last week? I don't remember.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. I mean, he said this has been the most tight-lipped the Lions have ever been, that nobody knows. So I think that's, to me, as long as the results show, I'm good with it. And thankfully, a group of the players we drafted will be able to see and know this year. So I think that's my biggest, deep breath is like, okay, we'll see what we drafted sooner rather than later. I think so. I'm excited about that. But yeah, I agree with what Miko said, and I follow that, and I need to take a page out of his book in regards to that. But here's the thing. This is the first time I've ever reacted to a draft, and I don't like it. I need to go work it again. So there's that. I need to go work it because I've been working it for 6 years, and I need to go do that again. So, yeah, that's my big takeaway.
Oh, yeah, that was funny. You were so pumped to just I got my
I got
my chicken wings. I
hated it.
I got
it. Worst.
I got my whole setup going.
Couldn't be more annoyed. Couldn't be more annoyed about the whole process, the time, the process, the time. It was, I would never, I hated it. All of it. Just the draft in general. I hated watching it. I'd rather work it. Anyway, so it's in Detroit this year. Well, so it's in Detroit next year. For those that don't know, obviously we're in Detroit.
That's true.
But the whole crew, that whole crew, the NFL crew, the crew that sets up everything for us, they're all coming in town. We're taking them all out. We're gonna have a whole thing, Miko. John, you should actually think about flying in. You can stay with me. You should actually think about that. Bring Rachel, bring the kids, because this will be. I mean, next year will be crazy, and we got to plan for it now. It's happening now. So anyway, that's my big takeaway.
Okay.
Not helpful, but fun.
Yeah. Scott's takeaways that we all need to go to the next one.
You need to come here. John needs to come here. That's what the takeaway is. So
you do. I mean, that's not.
You should. Yeah.
I don't know I don't know who's paying for the plane ticket because it ain't your boy. But
I mean, John, we could talk about a payment plan. I got you.
Okay, I'll expense it.
No, yes, expense it. Yes, throw it on the cart. Yeah,
you might want to reach out to Hendon and figure out that hooker lifestyle.
All
right, I'm done. We can get out.
Yeah, that's about it. So, all right, we appreciate everybody for hanging out. Thank you for all the follows today. We appreciate you. I tried to chat you in the chats, but after you subscribe, it wasn't popping up. But Pizza and Pacey's, thank you so much for the follow. There's a couple other of you I want to call out because we appreciate you. Civman MI, thank you for the follow. There's one more, and everybody wait. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it. I'm not finding it. Okay, anyways, but we appreciate you subscribing. And yeah, so head over to questionabletees.com. Lines never die. New piece out there. So hit that up. And yeah, I think that's it. Miko, I want to thank my fan. I want to thank the crew. Everybody in the chat, you guys were great tonight. That was blast. Miko, I want to thank you especially for everything, organizing everything. Gian, I want to thank you for being on. Great to see you. Oh my goodness. Like, where have you been? Yeah, Miko?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, shout out to everybody that's here, to our Twitch and YouTube audience. Quick shout outs to a couple people on YouTube. Shout out to C. Perry, True Teller 2011, Mark LeBay. You like the Hendon Hooker pick?
Yes! Wait! LeBay and I on the same page? Wait!
Mark, I'm gonna
LeBay and I? Hold on. Wait, is Mark LeBay on the same page for something in the first time ever?
He just says he likes the Hendon Hooker pick. I'm a little shocked by that. Tony Chase, shout out to you as well. And everybody else that hung out, Robert 360, Steve-O for stopping by. Akia Williams didn't really love the draft, but again, appreciate you stopping by, sharing your thoughts.
Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, just for hanging out. So we appreciate you guys again making us part of your Monday nights. We might be taking a bit of a hiatus.
It's a little break.
Couple weeks.
Little break.
So if you don't see us around, it's
off season. I think everybody can understand we need a break too, right? We've been going for a long time.
Yeah.
Mika, we've been going for 3 years straight, so I think we're gonna take a couple weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And appreciate you guys. Shout out to my family. Shout out to my wife. It's our anniversary, and she still let me jump on a podcast. So
happy anniversary.
Yeah, 11 years strong. Love that woman to death. Appreciate you guys. And
Gian?
Well, first of all, happy anniversary.
Thanks,
I
can't play it that long. I'm sorry.
I know. Well, no, I feel like it's even better now. Like that's because if you, it's like like now it's like if you know, you know. Thank you, Scott and Miko, and all you guys in the crew. This was the first time I was kind of following the comments as well. It was pretty fun.
Very fun.
Yeah, thank you to my wife who's currently taking care of our daughter. You can probably hear her in the background if my microphone is good. So I got to go take care of that. So thank you.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. But again, we appreciate you all. Miko, we'll send out when we're coming back and what the deal is. So, right? We'll let everybody know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's easy. You know where to find us. We'll be on Twitch and YouTube. So, all right, you guys, be safe. Thank you so much. We love you all. This is the Questionable Podcast. Out.